How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Got time to put all this supposed to be here.
Very good.
Yeah, she's not sending it today. I tried to slow it yesterday. Hoping to get done before this evening. I got it. Yeah.
This was
The Abernethy was on. Oh, he was going. Hi, Helen. Didn't want to sit at the head of the day?
No, I have my head not been used. I took to the audience instead, so you got the condolences.
I need to. I need to. Think we can get started.
Before we get started on language, does everyone want to hear a report on my trip to Iowa?
Sure.
Solar farm?
Yeah.
I sent Kate some photos, which include the ones that were 2 or 3 showed the people who last meeting on this topic. Start with number 1 first. Okay, I went up to Mid-County, Iowa. If anyone wants to see what it is, I have a map. The solar farm was proposed by NextEra, but they sold it in the last year-ish or so. It's 1,100 acres that are fenced. The company, they sold it to a company named Alliant, A-L-L-I-A-N-T Energy. That company has 1,100 acres that are fenced. Then they have additional acreage beyond that. Obviously, all of the panels are within the fenced acreage. The acreage is spread out over in different parcels over roughly a 4 to 5 mile rural area. So this, I arrived in Cedar Rapids mid-afternoon or so, and then met with staff for a while. So it wasn't until late afternoon by the time I got out to take photos. So obviously, late afternoon, everyone knows where the sun is. So I'm, for the most part, not going to show you things where I would be facing west into the sun, because all you're going to see is the back of the panel. So most of going to see the things on the east side of the road. Almost everything is along a road called Halo Marsh Road, starting maybe half a mile to a mile north of a smaller town. So this is one of the cells. Okay, go back to the first one. Sorry. I believe I'm standing on the gravel shoulder county road. There's north south there. One of the things I wanted to point out here, see, Kate, do you have Zoom capability or not? Okay. Perfect. A couple of things. One is, obviously, this particular unit is set back off the road by whatever route the landowner who's on the front, part in the front. At the back there, you see kind of a white, faded building that sticks out with several additional stories in height. That's an old electric power plant that has been decommissioned. The county told me that Alliant has some of their facilities that are maybe inverters and then some other type of facilities that are needed for a solar facility. So that will not be the case here in Jackson County. If there's an application here in Jackson, so we don't have any electrical generation plants like they do. So the other thing, and this will be more apparent on some additional photos. Actually, why don't you go ahead and go to the next one, Kate? Okay. I want to point out in this case, you can see there's the company installed a roughly 25 to 30 feet from the south side of the panels to the south fence that heads back east. There, and there's a smaller area in front of those panels. So go to the next one. Here I was trying to capture a good discussion, understandably, of what would happen to the ground underneath the panels. What would it be in or be used for? Obviously, in this case, those panels are, let's say, 12 to, I don't think that's quite 18 inches, might be, above the ground, so there's really no room for anything except a little bit of vegetation. So, go to the next one. And there was also a question about warning signs, new contact, if something happens, so you'll see these signs like this one placed every so often. I did not measure how frequently they occur. Obviously, you see the company name and the contact information. Please, if any questions. Next one, please. Okay, this is just a broader view of some additional panels coming up here. Go ahead, Kate. Another view. You can see kind of a large white structure just to the right of the center of the panels there. And there'll be a better close-up of that. You can also see some panels on that hillside. You can see that kind of bluish shading of those panels. At that time of day. Next one. Oops, that's a second. This is a close review. And you can see some close-ups of this area. That obviously side area is a bit wider than prior. You'll see some front areas here at the moment. There we go. Obviously, I've stayed outside of the fence. In this case, I think the fence where I was standing might be the county highway right of way. There was no indication that there was any private land in between there. So, we're going to go to the next one. Okay. This was just laying on the ground, and I'm not certain if that is some sort of. There are two of them. There's obviously one that's on the outer side of the fence, and then there's another one on the inner side of the fence. The one on the inner side has some small 18 to 24 inch posts by it. I see a little red top on one of those posts. I don't know if that's just to keep that particular barrier on that location. You can see there's a series of them going on the interior.
Stormwater.
With a ditch back to the right of that 15 feet or so. The next one. Another warning sign. There's a close-up of these. Linkages, we're obviously linking two long series of panels. You'll see that there's one. Every time there's a long series, you can see some connection behind it. And there's one behind it. So let's see what that is. Another view that is from the road. There's a visual. In that case, that particular site, how far it goes back to the fence. And then the next one, there's a close-up of the end of the cells, and you can see exactly what this pieces of wood are obviously similar related to actually turning the cells to follow the sun. Director, facilities, expert. Next. If I'm going too fast, it's probably something for those. I want to kind of give everyone a visual for, okay, from in that county, from the fence line, how far back is the first set of panels, and that's roughly 25 to 30 feet there. There's also a question about fence height. That camera is sitting at about 5.5 feet, so you can guess as far as the actual height of that fence. About a couple of feet or so. Okay, next. It's another overview of one of the interior access roads for service. And then there's a larger structure back to the back. You can see it that right. Here's one side of the building. Next one. I'm guessing that's probably a curb line, maybe. And that's what I know for the section here. There's a photo that's that I did not send you. It's so you can see it. And there's another view. So you can see a farmstead right at the back, right off to the side. And next. Also, trying to capture if there's anything that happens on this here, or say a little bit higher. The angle of those panels is a bit more flattened. There's a little bit higher off the ground. Obviously, there's still nothing that can be done. That's not big enough for any animals. Not really, for the most part, big enough to put any machinery on there. It's really very low base. Next. Is that it? There's one more that you can see. You have access to the email.
Did you detect any noise?
Only at one location. I visited 5 or 6 different places along the site. Only the 5th one there was no noise of any of the other ones. When I arrived at the 5th one, there was a motor running. I couldn't tell. It wasn't all the way back at the far back end of all the panels. It wasn't right at the front either. It was somewhere a little ways back. I couldn't know what the motor was doing. I did not detect any motion of the panels. In other words, so I'm guessing that it was not a motor that was designed to power the rotation of those panels to excite it. It was something else, but it shut off while I was there. I did not have a decibel reader, so I can't tell you. It did not seem. It was noticeable, but it wasn't to me really loud. But everyone has their own perception of conversation.
Could it be a lawnmower?
Lawnmower is some distance away.
Well, you don't say
As far as
lawnmower.
the sound volume, The barn would have had to been some, either some distance away or a fairly quiet. Quiet room, so.
Because you could tell in one of your spots that they just came through and mowed. I'd like to see how they're mowing and do those. Yeah, you mess around there, they got a package, they take the business taken care of.
Should be on its way. While that's product arriving, actually, since I took that trip, I did find out that there's a I don't know the size, but reportedly the largest solar facility east of Mississippi is just about 2.5 hours from this one, on the east side of the river, between there and East St. Louis. I don't know the number of acres, I just know it's available as the largest in Mississippi. And the center is a small house.
No, we need to move along. Can you just tell us what the,
Sure. What the other photo, if it comes through, she'll display it. Obviously, Lake County does their own regulations as you would expect. A couple of differences for discussion. One is, the facility in Lynn County was built in 2 phases. The second phase just opened in December of last year. The one before that opened in a year and a half or so before that, maybe 2 years. Maybe a little bit less. So there are two sets of regulations. So the first 50 megawatt was approved, and construction started before the second one. Okay, here's the missing photo. Okay, and I'll get to this in just a second. Thank you, Pete. The first set of rules, the county had a 150-foot setback from the nearest well. They increased that for the second phase was 150 megawatts, so it's 3 times the size of the first total wall is at 11 acres fenced. They increased that, they doubled it to 300 foot setback from the nearest well.
is that from the array itself or from a fence, or where's the measure from?
I'm not certain if that's from the array or the fence.
I'm sorry?
I don't know. I will have to ask if that's from the array.
That's not much help to us if we don't know
Right.
where to measure from.
Right.
I would venture a guess and match that up with that as anticipating property.
So,
owner.
That's what I would guess too. Yeah.
Well, but even at 300 feet, there's no way that a non-participating would want to be that close.
That's not close.
The array. Yeah, this is one of those. Sorry, everyone. This is one of those panels that's facing
You're on
west.
the road.
Yeah, here's the. I'm on the way. Let me see. Here's the corner of the array. Can't tell if the fence goes much farther. Then there's a little area when you get into the yard. So I'm guessing that this is. I don't know. This is towards the south end of all those projects, and I don't know if this is one of the older ones or one of the middle ones. That was my guess, Luke, as well. Because this might be because of how close that is to the end of the array. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. First thing I think our 1300 feet is excessive. The county proposed 1,000. If we go through that 1300, we go through 1300.
Douglas County's 500.
Yeah, I know a lot less than our 1300. Second, another difference, Lynn County does, as you would expect, does have the sound rules. In their case, they have a dual sound rule. Daytime is 55 dBA, averaged over an hour. And that's lowered to 55, so it's 50 at night. So there's a small decrease, again, over an hour. I forget on our proposed rules that we talked about a month ago, about 40. How that was worded, if it was just a flat 40, or if it was 40 over a period of time. If our rules do not say over a period of time, you need to add a time period. For example, average over a time.
We don't have to worry about the sound if they don't ever put anything in, because we've got a lot of things preventing it with large setbacks. So, yeah.
So the yellow got changed, did the blue get changed too? Those colors mean something.
Yeah,
I think it was the time through it, like the first time and second time maybe. So that was a suggestion that you guys were looking not to. So the yellow is what you decided on changing it to, and of course the stripe was a stripe.
we're by somebody's house, it shouldn't be making noise.
The panels themselves
It's a lawn mowing, yeah, that's what what makes the noise.
there was some sort of motor that was on when I arrived. It was only on at one of those sites. It was not on when I was at the other sites. I don't know, since it was on when I arrived, I don't know how long it had been on.
So, yeah.
Are we comfortable with that, or should we move on?
I think we need to.
I think he might have brought up a good point during the day. Maybe there should be something that allowed, something loud as lawnmowers running around. But otherwise, I'm okay with that.
I think we need to.
What did their regulations specifically say?
Yeah, I don't understand the time waiting.
I think the hours.
Well, it's so if there's a spike, that only happens for 5 seconds or 1 second. That would, if you have a noise decibel reading and that spike jumped up, that would be a violation. So the hour time frame would be, it had to be sustained for an hour or whatever that time frame would be in order to be considered above that. That's what that, the way I
Yeah,
understand it.
oh, yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense?
Do they have footage?
So that would catch it, they would catch it, that would make it okay for a lawnmower to come by.
What I think I need to do is, what would be helpful to all of us is to get the exact wording
Yeah.
on the decibel, because where is it measured from? How do they put the time, how do they insert the time period? And then I'll bring that back.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
I was supposed to get some definitions put together. So I'll bring definitions for the next one. Yeah, there's one, I had some things I was trying, is this not a good time?
Sure.
So what's the process of this? As far as our process? If there's we go and say, okay, make a motion on the product, and then somebody says no, and then we debate that, and if it's, and then it goes, what's the time frame? I just want you to touch on the process, if
Well, you mean for us to come up with a finished product?
okay? Yeah.
There's no time. I think we made that clear. We're going to take whatever time we need to take to come up with a document that we're satisfied with.
And I think what you're maybe asking is, how do we go about completing this?
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, that's when we've exhausted everything that we think to do. Then we say we have a completed product, well, then it goes to the public, to have a public meeting. And we get feedback, just like we've done in the regular monthly meetings when we have somebody that's filing an application for something. We would have to put that out so that they have time to review it, have time to ask questions. I think is that what you're?
Yeah, kind of a combination of both, so appreciate it. So, there was some things that I was going to try to circle back on, if that's okay. That I've been struggling to put myself in a position where I can see the reasoning behind it. So the page 6A talks about nothing within 2 miles of any city limits. It's on US 75. So we're talking about Fulton.
Talking about the county.
You're talking about Fulton right there.
Or okay.
Yeah. I live in Fulton, so I guess not that it means more, but I see that maybe a little bit different than the other communities because Fulton owns their own power. And I've seen other cities like Chanute supplement their power.
We supplement ours. We don't produce our own power.
You don't produce solar,
We don't produce our own power. It's not
you
electricity.
have generators that supplement the energy grid from energy.
It's more like a cell.
They very seldom use it.
Well, they're part of the power grid. And so, but the
To submarine generator.
They're part of the very over.
I think that the context of that specific thing is to accommodate the future growth. That if you lock up a piece of land within 2 miles for 30 years or however, then that limits that city from being able to expand out. So that it's in the first sentence, accommodate the future growth of incorporated cities. That was limiting the infrastructure around those cities so that they could expand housing and development as opposed to.
well, for instance, right now there's a project in Chanute, Kansas, where the city is building out a 6-megawatt solar farm. Okay, Chanute, Kansas, and they're using that power because they're like Fulton, they own their power grid. Okay, and so that's helping them with revenues. That's helping offset customer
What's
prices.
your point?
The point is, I don't. If there's there should be a damn good reason for this. If you're going to take away that ability for a town to do their own solar, as a county, that's my point. I don't agree with it.
So there's my question in that is, does Chanute own the land or they lease the land? So they own the land outside of the city.
It's in the city.
So it's in the city. But,
Well, it's within 2 miles or whatever.
but is it in the,
I'd have to go back.
that's, if the city owns the land, then that's a different. I mean,
Except, I mean, I'm looking at this, it looks like the county's taking away that from even happening. Right, because it says, and it talks about, it's not just for commercial. I believe this section is for anything that is, where's the heading of this thing?
I guess for me,
Limited scale and commercial, section 2. So limited scale is anything that's over 20 acres. So,
I guess for me, my argument to that is we have a development plan in the county for our county. It may not work for every county, but for our county, we've decided, in my opinion, has decided to protect the ability of the town to be able to expand. I mean, we don't have enough housing in this county, in this town.
okay, well, but it doesn't say anything about it says something from the corridor as an industrial development and the overall plan. It doesn't address solar at all. It's big. That's why we're here.
Right, that's why we
So I
said,
don't want to confuse those two.
Is part of your question, just trying to understand.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe I'm not.
if, if Holton were to, at some point, decide they wanted to supplement their limited power generation and establish and set up a photovoltaic array that the city of Holton electric would own.
Or
Within that
Okay.
2 mile area, is that there's a way for them, if the city is interested in doing that, or any of the other cities. Kate, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, all the city would have to do would be to annex that parcel. And once the city annexes those parcels, then it would under whatever city rules that particular governing body has. So if the city of Bolton decides at some point they want to build a hypothetical, something closer, then they go through the process of building that within that 2 miles under that scenario. Is that one possibility?
It would be the best possibility, I would think for the city, they're willing to expand, to annex into the city, and then their regulations, they would apply for exemption on that parcel. And put a solar farm.
Is that the question?
That's one problem, but now the city of Baldwin has a deal with Evergy, where Evergy built out solar for them right outside of town. And Baldwin doesn't own that place, but they buy it from them. But that's still a benefit of the city.
Well, do you have a motion to modify this?
That's my motion, is to strike that.
I
Or if you're gonna, sorry.
second that motion.
Second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Hold on, was there a
Well,
That's right, there's too much.
if you wanted it to, I mean, I would think you get rid of it, but if somebody had a problem with it, it definitely shouldn't be in this limited scale solar part. See,
Are you making the motion?
yeah, I'm making a motion, that'd be deleted.
What you do?
That's, okay, I make a motion that deletes the part where it says and 2 miles of any city limits that is on US 75 highway corridor.
So you're leaving the 1 mile of any city.
Oh, I didn't see that.
When people apply to these permits, they have to tell what they're gonna do. And we've got this in regulations. I think I understand what he's saying is that we have so many regulations that can be misinterpreted and constricted, they don't even get a chance to try. That you wouldn't approve it if it was within a mile. And we don't like it's too close, we're not going to do it. I know we need to have a lot of this. I'm kind of agreeable with what he's saying. I think he's saying is that there's too much detail. There's more than this that needs to be deleted out of this resolution.
I disagree, so that's why we're here, is because
My suggestion
This is
is,
a good place to start, that when they come in and apply for a permit, then
let me suggest this. If you want to make a change, come with the change available to the group,
Okay, that's how you, okay.
all right?
right.
So why don't you work on your motion and take it up next time?
Okay, that's,
We're just killing a lot of time getting nothing done,
I guess.
all right?
still discussing, and that's what
Right.
we're here
Yeah.
for. I mean, as it is 3 of the people who were initially in that discussion are not here, so Now we have new people that are wanting to know why that discussion took place.
I know, and I feel terrible that you guys are doing this.
It's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so.
It's like, what business does Jackson County tell a
Well,
company how to put their solar arrays on?
many of these
But
things,
that's the whole point of this.
you're assuming we discussed every one of these things. Many of them we accepted as proposed.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's what I'm concerned about too.
so then as we go, or as you go through it, if you think something could be changed, then be specific about how you want it changed.
I got one. I got one I want to change.
Okay?
Okay, it's on page 7A. Report. And things that issue go back to the way it was. Basically, the project area should be limited to no more than 2,000 acres total.
And strike the balance.
It's trying to say, well, we're only going to allow one.
I'm sorry.
It says we're only going to allow one.
Okay.
I make a motion to get rid of that.
For a second.
I'm sorry, could you be more specific on the words you wanted to leave?
Well, the thing is what we're saying is that, yeah, we'll allow a 2,000 acre site, and we'll allow a company to come in here and maybe expand that site later. But we're only allowing one in our county. And that's, to me, that hits on the lines of picking winners and losers. So I think that if we're going to allow a 2,000 acre site, then allow a 2,000 acre site. If it fits the parameters of all the other things, and there's another spot in the county that could take a 2,000 acre site, and there's farmers that want to have the ability to do that, then it's okay. But limiting it to one and say, okay, we're just going to allow one, we're not going to do any more, is not, in my mind, what we should be doing.
Well, it's the first sentence, I think, defines.
Exactly, that's where I was right. The first sentence is, if you skip over that, it doesn't make sense. But the first sentence makes it all make sense.
Well, I think that first sentence is still there if you take out the one in the site.
I disagree.
That's where, and that's where we're probably going to disagree.
And just to go back to where we were, the 6 or 7 of us that were here at that time agreed that that was okay. Now there's different ones. This is why we have to go back and change. We have to go through this again because in 2 years, this whole planning commission could be totally different. And that's why these regulations, some of these were written 20 years ago, that we have to look at now and say, is this really what we want to do?
And some of this was put together from different areas. This is all a patchwork of rules that they got from different areas that don't necessarily fit.
There's also a possibility of Jonathan saying highway, they put in one, they see, they decide they want to put in a second. There is a possibility.
Modifying the regulations that have been
There you go, so,
Do you have a specific?
Yeah, I have a motion to get rid of just the one and the site, and return it back to the project area shall be limited to no more than 2,000 acres total. Unless the planning commission or the county commission approves modified, that's all the state is saying.
I second that motion.
It moved and second, the amendment be made, all in favor say aye. Vote same sign. Aye. 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 That's what funny was. Okay, move on.
Yeah, well, I think we should,
Should we write that differently? You guys want to come back to that?
I think it could be changed in the future. More of a big deal is that Mr. Boone, so
Okay.
Started off with when we were talking about back setbacks, which, again, stay focused on that until we come to some other resolution.
And again, on that, I'll get the
We sent that
exact
a
wording.
quarter mile.
I'll get the exact wording that then the county has, and then share that with everyone at the next meeting. That way we'll have something concrete to look at. So I don't expect it
For the sound, or just
to, both. Exactly how the word is.
Right, because that looked really nice, I thought. And you could tell that they had some, they plowed some area, prepared area in front, that they were going to grow some kind of crops in front of panels, or they were planning for something out there.
That's
As a
outside the
possible
fence.
subdivision.
That's outside the fence. That
Right,
wouldn't be under their control. That would be the landowner.
right, but you see what I'm saying, there was still something going on out there. Like that might have been part of the rules. Like we have an office that you can put there.
We don't have anything on outside of the perimeter of what you can do.
Oh, I see.
That's outside of their perimeter. The rules don't matter for that. The county rules will
Well, it didn't, they had the fence back by the solar panel, but they sure looked,
matter. They were farming around the fence.
I think we're digressing.
Yeah.
Let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing. Nobody minds.
Those are the two that I want to bring up this evening. And, the setbacks are going to issue the whole process. I myself, I'm personally leaning more towards what the industry standard is. That's something that we're doing today. I need to find out what there's a better study that I talked about last time. I'm probably going to that to make motions.
Okay, what's the involved? As far as the overall discussion.
We're just going back and forth. We've read through the entire thing. Now it's just going back and rediscussing points that.
That's what I mean. The
Yeah.
things that we had resolved. Okay, so you're going to get us more information on this section. Decibels and distance.
Yes, to look at and get more details about their specific wording and fill out consideration for that. This is what we do.
Okay, what's next? You're in charge, man. Well, I mean,
This is where we left off, so.
this one left off.
The definitions. So page 3 on the definitions, you were gonna look into block versus
Yes.
module.
Yes, I got that. I'll bring that next time.
Is that, we had like 3 or 4 people here. So yeah, you're looking into definitions.
What's the next item that needs to be resolved? What's the,
Yeah, sure. That's where we start with it, right there, yeah.
We did most of this discussion on commercial and we didn't talk a lot about limited scale. And at the end, it says that the provisions are applicable to the limited scale. But some of those may have changed because we've changed some things. Just they're referencing. But I fundamentally disagree with commercial solar investment. I don't think it's. I've lived here my entire life and plan to be here for the rest of my life. I just don't know that it's in the best interest. That's why I do think that limited scale is a strong possibility. So I don't want to see the limited scale limited by the commercial scale regulations, in so much as what you talked about with the distance from a town. I still don't think that if you want it much closer than that, but I can see the limited scale having a greater impact than the commercial. So that's just fundamental, I think.
One could say a plus, a positive thing, I like the deconditioning part of it, and protect the future, good things that come in. But I came here to try to get solar panels. And maybe any solar panel is not burning coal. And I think we've got to mention that at one of these meetings. Every solar panel we put out there is just doing this coal that we're talking about. And it's like sweet, it lasts.
If it was so viable and so efficient, why would they tear it out in 30 years?
Who says they're going to tear it up?
They do. They're going to let the land set fallow for 30 years and then tear it out so the land can go back into production. Why would you put all of this infrastructure in?
I don't see that. I mean, what did you?
It's on a radio. They're at on radio. We're going to let it sit. Fallow. So if it was so viable, why did they sell the one in Iowa? They put it in and then sold it. So I'm just protecting our county so that we're not.
Yeah, and I understand, and I see that all the way, and that's why I've given up on fighting to get agrivoltaic back in and batteries back in. That I think those are two things that have hamstrung a really nice operation. I've been getting a lot of emails because I clicked on one email about the agrivoltaic where they actually have sheep farms running underneath these running sheep underneath them, so they are mowing less and created a market for the sheep.
And I can see that in a limited scale. I can see that in a limited scale.
And, so
I just don't think that the basis behind these commercial projects is good for our county.
Well, there's a landowner, that's an issue too. I mean, I'm a landowner and I have the opportunity to get solar on my land, and I do think I'm doing it.
But we also
got to
have
be careful.
a full book of regulations that tell us what we can and can't do on the property. Because I've said it, how do your property rights trump my property rights? I mean, or my right to enjoy my property. That's the thing, is
Right.
You
So
gotta-
having a 500-foot setback or whatever it is, the standing says that allows everybody to enjoy their property. That's what other people. I mean, I'm not really thinking about the solar farm every day, but so I'm not sure if that is infringing on everybody's rights.
I can tell you I'm within 50 feet of soybean and corn stubble after you. And I like to can't, it's not even a thought to me. I should keep them from changing. That 1,200 feet is just too many.
And that's where I'm fundamentally,
Right.
it's the scale of it. It's the,
Yeah.
they're not members of our community. They will come in, put it in, and then be gone.
And that's what's wrong with that. What's wrong with burning some solar for 30 years? What's wrong with soaking up some sun rays for 30 years and not burning a bunch of coal? Well, I don't see
The
why.
thing is they're not making any more agriculture, any more farmland. We've got to feed this country somehow. And if you take it all out of production, how do you do that? Why don't they put them on top of buildings? Walmart has a lot of room down there. Why don't they want to do that? Because it's a fire hazard, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, because no, it costs too much. Because it's a lot cheaper just to put up some roofs.
Yeah. And I think that if you have a farmland that produces a lot of good crops, I think that's a reasonable thing, but we've all decided and said that we don't have it.
Yeah, there's there's lots of stuff out there that's kind of cool. We don't want to stop somebody from putting some solar panels on some poor rocky soil.
But that rocky soil does grow native grass that feeds a lot of cattle. So it's not all about crops.
Right.
But
That's just,
It's about
it's a
cattle.
fundamental belief that you have that we differ.
Yeah.
I think if we do it right, and we do it the right, responsible way, it's a good opportunity for landowners in the county, it's a great opportunity for the county itself.
and that's where I've been from the beginning. I said, how do I weigh my differences with private property rights? And that's why we're still here. I mean, that's why we're still talking about this. Because we could have taken this document and they handed it to us and said, we don't want to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it. That was an option. But as we're doing it, I want to do it right.
Right. I polled all my neighbors, well, except for 2. And so 12, I talked to 12 people that own more than 300 acres. And only one person said that we should stop, I would stop my neighbors from putting solar panels on their property. And you know what they said? Because, just like you said, the solar panels are going to compete with range. Competing with. And pasture land is going to go, and so my taxes are going to go up. I want to keep my neighbors from doing that. And everyone else said, no, I don't want solar panels. But if my neighbor wanted them, they shouldn't be getting them. As long as I'm protecting. And they brought up all the
And of
stuff.
those neighbors, are you all looking where they all land, do they live there?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well,
In this instance, what this is most of them don't even live in the county.
yeah. But then none of my neighbors came down and complained about these regulations or raised hell about it in the beginning. They didn't know anything about it. It was just, you know what I'm saying? They're just all, hey, well, I don't know. They were mainly cattle. Hey, I'm cattle. But they,
And that's why I say, if you want to put up 20 acres here, 20 acres there, it's the commercial side of things that I just have a fundamental difference.
Right.
So that's where I draw from.
Right. And I see where you're coming from, and I can appreciate it. And I think that like even would fit in around my neighborhood. With the one I mentioned that to him, because we have all these, part of this.
It's not feasible for the private homeowner within the 20 acre, so it's not feasible. You have to be on the backside of the meter for it to be any benefit. These power companies are concerned about power infrastructure, it's not there. So you have to, from a financial standpoint, they're looking at, bringing in infrastructure to carry this electricity. then all these people couldn't afford it anyway. We put too many sites everywhere, and what's out there can't handle it. And they're not going to get the way that it's a deeper discussion about the structure of how electricity is metered. But if you are a large company and that used, had a $20,000 electric bill or whatever large electric bill a month, you put a solar panel, it makes a lot of sense to you because you get that offset. It's 100%. You got a farmer who doesn't use that electricity, he's only getting 2 cents on the dollar. He can pay back. So financially, it's a large investment, and they have it structured to where you won't even make that much money back. I mean, I don't even know, do they let you bank it? They don't let you bank it.
My system's not designed to overproduce. I'd have to shut my house off and leave for a month for it to. I think mine's an 8 kilowatt system that operates at 80% efficiency for the first 20 years. So it's never at 100%. And I don't not use enough to offset what it, I mean, it's 56%. I've never not had I've always had to pay the minimum because I'm using their infrastructure. But that also goes to the limited scale, it goes back to the grid.
Yeah, but
it's not shipped out. So if I put up two systems, if I put up two 8 kilowatt systems, then I would be into a bonus. And I would switch my meter to a
net zero.
A net. I'm on that. What's the other one?
Net metering.
Net metering is one where it feeds back, but then you're selling it at wholesale and buying it back at retail. So it doesn't make sense for my private system to do that. If I put up another set of panels, then I would switch that other meter to that system where they're buying it from me, and then I'm buying back what I use.
Right, but they don't bank that.
But every kilowatt I produce, I get paid for.
About 3 cents a dollar.
Right, it's a wholesale.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. It's all about how much you use. I mean, this side of the meter. If you're on the other side of the meter, it's a whole new utility. It's a different math. So that's the reasoning why if you're going to do a size for solar to make it beneficial, it needs to be up to 9 meters.
A little bit of the discussion about all sites. You've already done something with this, could you bring some information to our July meeting on this topic?
For what?
About the Chanute. It sounds like the Chanute, I don't know if the Chanute's on the all set.
It sounds like it's bigger, it would be like 60 acres.
It's a little bit larger than that.
You said it was a 50 kilowatt.
6 megawatts.
6.
So I think it's
Because it takes, 8 to 10 per megawatt, 8 to 10 acres is what I've read.
yeah, it's 1 to 10.
If you could put some information, just
Yeah, I can.
as a point of information, acreage, megawatts, any other system, computers, obviously they're doing there is a smaller scale. Maybe not exactly what Luke's describing, but closer to that smaller scale.
It goes back to them they're sitting.
Yeah, because they're in front of the meter, on the other side of the meter. That's where our pole is at. On this side, on the south side of the meter, so it makes a lot of sense. For small municipalities who want their own grid and supplement power. And large utilities and supplement power. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense, as much sense as for a farmer that wants to be able to present land and go solar. Initial costs.
Oh, but that would be in the same instance. I don't know that I am going to go invest the money to put up 20 acres of solar. I'm saying that the utility would lease the land in that sense to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how that works, but I can hear the information.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that a couple of neighbors are going to get together. Yeah, let's invest. I mean, maybe, but if it was that profitable, why does there have to be federal subsidies to put them in?
Well, that's federal subsidies. It's debate on
Right.
reasoning and all that stuff.
You pick up coal, that's all they do, you literally pick it up off the ground and ship it. So you can't beat the cheapness of coal. And so,
Or the efficiency.
except that it's dirt.
And also, I think that there's a major benefit if you look at it from 30,000 feet. There is a benefit for our security to have a distributed network. It's not such a centralized network. We've talked about that for years. These big mega power plants that we've had, nuclear and coal, that are centrally located, really puts us at risk. And so that was another reason why the strategically to put wind, solar, more distributed network for the security standpoint.
It's just the use of vast acres of ag. Saw in, whether it's Japan or whatever, but they had solar panels on the middle of the highway. You look at I-70, it runs clear across the state of Kansas. It's got a 100-foot wide median.
Okay, but also I think, am I right that there is no shortage of landowners that would jump at this in this county? Do we have a bunch of landowners that don't want it? Or do we have a bunch of landowners that have already signed up, they want this to happen? So we can talk about how nobody wants it and how each they should be doing something else. If that was true of the case, we would have nobody, they would say, no, we don't want to do that. But from what I'm gathering, that's not what's happening.
I don't know if any farmer was signed up.
Okay?
I do.
I know some, that they'd be interested if they did regulations. Just
But it's also a thing that it doesn't just affect that one farm. This affects the entire county. And, I mean, I've said it numerous times, I think that there should be a vote on whether the county wants this.
and that's why.
So it's not up to the six of us
Right.
to say whether this is gonna happen.
We are the unelected homeowners association right now. And that's what I don't like about this, with these giant setbacks and all these excessive regulations to even get something started. We're the unelected homeowners association. We need to get this passed on so that the elected homeowners association, the commission gets to deal with people. More than just the people that are complaining. That's when none of my neighbors knew anything about it. The big meetings where people were angry about it. They were just doing their farm, they're just farming and living life. They gave me. Because those high voltage lines are coming through my property, they can put solar panels down there. Well, I don't know. I listen to it. You know what I'm saying? They weren't involved like we are. But there are people that are interested in anything that's going to be improved in or unless angry. It's not all just cattle ranchers. This is a big, maybe this is supposedly a big bedroom community for two people.
That's why we need more housing.
Right, that's exactly where I got sucked into this. And that's why I went to my neighbors and I'm just a small man. I just thought it was a great idea to have solar panels on a large scale, because I know there are places that poor range that they fit into very well. And I like the way you're thinking there, to make that I think the smaller scale. Okay, now I'm rambling on, Mr. Lake.
Yeah, there you go. You now got me totally bored. didn't sign up for this
Yeah.
philosophical
Okay,
discussion.
so
Right.
That's
I
actually
came
not-
here, this
I did,
is what
yes.
it is, let's clean this up.
My family moved here in late 1860s, 1870s. And I'm vested in this county.
Yeah. To me, from the outsider, it seems like this is like back in the old fence range, old rangelands. Oh, we're fighting over them, keep them damn sheep out of here. We don't want the fences in.
That's why I'm going with this, is trying to make it to where it can happen, but
We're gonna make sure
it's going to protect the book that we have to go on. Because there's a lot of things in there I'd like to see changed myself.
Right.
But that's one process at a time.
Well, there's 6 of us here. It's, oh, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna harp on, that's the kind of guy I am. I'm gonna harp on the setbacks. I'll just be rambling on and try to make motions if we need to address the setbacks.
Just my sense of, unless, someone knows without really speaking up tonight, thank you for contributing whatever you feel appropriate. I'm wondering if for it, we've pretty much done what we can do tonight until I get more of those definitions, until you not definitions, wording on some of those things, until you get some of the wording on some of the things that you're talking about. Anyone else has some things?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to close down the work session, but
I think it's a good
My
idea.
only
I think we're sliding.
with the setbacks, you talked about the elected homeowner, we're unelected. But the commissioners put this document together and they came up with 1,000. We increased it to 1320 because I was trying to protect those non-participating people
Protecting them from
having to live in the shadow.
okay, well, I think that too bad.
I would say in that instance, that person is leased their land and they're living, and there's a potential in here. It says in here that setback can be decreased but this is it's mainly for non-participating. So if you live right there, if you leased your land and you want it right up to your back door, you can do that. You can apply for a decreased setback. This is to set it back from those non-participating.
And that's what and so you're saying that, no, we can force the other person what to do with their property. A quarter mile, you can't touch your property for a quarter mile, but you can put solar panels up. But you can put soybean stubble right up to the ditch.
I think John had a good idea.
Yeah,
We're going to go all through this again when he brings this back next week. So I'm
Just upset about it.
abandoning this group. You can stay as long as you want.
Thank you.
Thanks for the nice photo.